Thank you for joining us for today's community event for our February edition. Forward the slide if I can. Today's agenda, we're looking at new ways of engaging with us. We've launched a number of new vehicles over the past few months, and so we're just making sure that we've got ways to engage with us. We're going to introduce you to the customer advocacy team and the programs that they launch, including the Customer All Stars program. We've got a product management update for some latest releases and then a Python demo from one of our engineers, followed by a Q&A at the end. So it should be a fun and information-packed event. If you've got any questions and you want to submit them, just go onto the questions tab, submit your questions, and we'll get to as many of these as we can at the end. If we don't get a chance, if there's too much content, or if we overrun, then we'll make sure to follow up with you straight after the event. So, new ways to engage with us, ways to watch our content, connect with us, share, and also help create content and knowledge for you and your community peers. So first off, all of these recordings are put onto our community playlist, which can be found on YouTube. It's got every single recording since we launched the program last year. There's a whole host of content, including customer demos, product manager updates and features. So please feel free to check that out on our YouTube community playlist. You can follow the link using the QR code here. Secondly, we've got our ideas platform. This is already proven really popular. We launched it just at the end of January, and we've already got over 20 new ideas that have come through. You can vote on these ideas, so you can submit your ideas, and then people can then vote to see what they want. Already got some popular ones looking at the, I'm guessing, Gen AI topics here, but there's a whole host of things. So if you've got a feature, if you've got an idea for a feature that you'd love to see in our platform, then this is a great way to get that across to the PM team and our engineering team who will deal with these things. Just follow the QR link or the code on the presentation here. Next up is our community portal, which we launched last year. It is a single pane of glass, really, to kind of get a hold of all of the different content that you might be interested in. We've got recent top knowledge base articles, upcoming events, links to the ideas portal, but also we've got ways to engage with us. So whether you want to speak at one of our events, you want to do a customer spotlight, guest blog, things like that. Links to documentations and product downloads, as well as to our third-party instances in GitHub and Stack Overflow. And of course, all the links to social media as well. Then we have our community forum. Already people starting to ask questions of our community. This is moderated by myself and a whole team of people behind me, including product management, engineers, developers, and our consultant team who've got a raft of experience and are answering these questions. You can ask your development questions on top of our technology. You can ask questions about the platform, how to, things like that. And we'll make sure that we get you the right answers. Like I say, these are moderated by very experienced people. So it's a great way of getting access to content that you might not be able to find using our community hub. Again, follow the link through the QR code or the link on the page here. And then finally, we've got our community feedback. Now, we want to hear from you. We want to get ideas for future events. And we've got a survey that we're going to be sending out after the event, along with a recording of it. And this is to judge how you're getting on with these events, whether you're finding them valuable, suggestions for topics that you might want to see. Also, really important, I want to point this out, we've got our upcoming MarkLogic in-person MarkLogic World in Washington, DC this year. And the team really wants to know what topics, trends, and other data-related things you'd like to see at this multi-day event. We're happy to receive these ideas, and we'll look to get that content added to it. If you'd like to present with us yourself, then please reach out directly to us via the community hub or forum, and we'll make sure that we connect you to the right people. And then finally from me, more ways to see content and what we've got coming up in March. We've got a whole host of different content from ourselves and our sister technology, Semaphore. So on the 7th of March, we've got a roundtable discussion, the next frontier for the enterprise, the human collaboration. This is looking at the recent trends of Gen AI, how it's applicable to MarkLogic, what we're doing in that area, how we're developing on that. And it's a really fascinating discussion with some of the senior developers that are working on this technology right now, and have active research projects. So please feel free to check that out. We'd love to get your feedback on that. Then we're looking at why you need a data-centric architecture in 2024. That's on the 21st. That's from our Semaphore colleagues. And then from unstructured data to rich insights with semantic technologies, and that's on the 26th. And then finally, we'll have the next month's community event, our March edition. And then I've just added, just to make sure that we're covering all the bases, we've got an in-person event this month. We'll be attending the Gartner Data and Analytics Summit in Orlando, Florida. So if you're in the region or traveling to the event, please make sure you check us out. If you want to register or see more details for any of these events, then click on the follow the link through to that on our website. So the whole kind of theme for this is join in. We want you to actively participate in the community to make the product better for you and your use cases. As a result of that, we're going to be launching a new program from our customer advocacy team. And with that today, we've got Umaima, who is going to talk through the Progress Customer All-Stars program, give you an overview of the project, as well as ways of participating in the various different offerings that they have. So Umaima, it's over to you.
Thanks, Philip. So I'm Umaima Anwar, a customer advocacy specialist here at Progress. You'll also see my colleague, Jennifer Meyer, manager of our customer advocacy program here on the screen. She's unfortunately having some technical difficulties, though otherwise she'd absolutely love to be here and to introduce herself, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities to get to know her. So let's go on to that next slide, where we're going to talk a little bit about what is a Progress Customer All-Stars. So Progress All-Stars is a mutual collaboration between Progress and its customers. The end goal of this program is to really foster relationship building between Progress and our customers, encourage our customers to become those influential ambassadors of Progress and our solutions, where they can share their firsthand positive experiences in a variety of formats, and also fuel collaboration opportunities between Progress and our customers for that really key mutual success. And in the next slide, we'll go over a little bit of what those benefits exactly are. So the first is industry thought leadership. So members get various opportunities to grow their own personal brand and showcase their subject matter expertise. Then we have product roadmap influence. So active members will have access to executives and internal product teams to share that honest feedback and some of their vision for what they expect for their products in the future. Next, we have exclusive networking opportunities. So we have unique ways members can really share their success, and I'll elaborate on that a little bit in the future slides. And then we have rewards. So you'll definitely be awarded for your participation as a token of our appreciation to you for your time. We also have peer network growth. So you'll be given the chance to really expand your own peer network through different engagement opportunities. And if we can go on to the next slide, I'll be happy to elaborate a little bit further on what those opportunities exactly are. So we'll start by jumping into the public activities available for All-Star members. First, we have Success Story. So this consists of a 30-minute to 1-hour conversation where we capture your progress story, highlighting the impact of our products and services on your company. And next, there are video testimonials and quote contributions. So you would have the chance to provide authentic feedback on your overall experience with Progress in a digital or written format. And of course, nothing goes live without your approval, as with all the other ones. We also welcome members to contribute to our blog, where they can share their insights and best practices with a wider audience and really serve as that thought leader. Then there are webinars and speaking opportunities. So this would be like events, seminars, or conferences, either in person or virtually. You would likely sit on a panel with other industry experts to discuss your overall product experiences and have the chance to really expand your network. Finally, there are peer review submissions and press references. So you'd be asked to submit a review on Gartner Peer Insights, G2, or another review submission platform in exchange for a gift card if your company allows it. And this is really critical as well, as we feel it's important for your industry peers to be informed of MarkLogic product feedback as they make their own technology purchasing decisions. And press references would be in instances of when we have a press release and would like to highlight your name or a quote within it. Perhaps this would mean like speaking with a member of the media directly about your experience with MarkLogic. And if we could go on to the next slide. Thank you. So we understand with certain policies, you may be unable to publicly participate, which is why we offer alternatives for customers who have to be private but are still really interested in collaborating. First is anonymous success story. So similar process as mentioned in the previous slide, except we would not reveal your identity. In both instances, nothing would be published without your final review and approval. There are peer review submissions. So again, similar concept to the last slide. You'd be submitting an anonymous review in exchange for a gift card as a token of our appreciation for your time. Survey participation is another opportunity. We really value your opinions and like to check in from time to time to see how satisfied you are with your experience. Next is peer-to-peer sales reference. So our customers can serve as a reference for prospects, basically sharing their first-hand experiences and insights directly without us in that conversation to other companies who are interested in our product. The next one is product advisory board. So there's select few opportunities for this one, but they definitely will happen, and it's a great way to, as I mentioned before, directly influence our product roadmap. So you'd be connected with our development teams and have the chance to try new releases and provide that critical feedback that helps shape the future of Progress. There's also this sales kickoff presentation. So this is an internal Progress meeting. We would wire you in virtually or bring you on site. You'd have the opportunity to speak directly to members of our sales team to help kind of inspire them with your product experience story, as well as provide the honest feedback that they can use. And last but not least, we have our industry analyst reference. So All-Star members would provide valuable insights and perspectives for various reports such as Gartner or Forrester, and the analyst would speak with you under NDA. And again, nothing would be published publicly. And I want to emphasize again that you would not be asked to participate in all of these. We would work with you to identify where your interest lies and go from there. And of course, if there are things on these slides that you think would be a great addition to our team to explore, please let us know. We always want to evolve with our customer base and are open to your suggestions. You can always raise a flag to your account manager to loop us in. So if we go into the next slide, we can give a little bit more details of how this process exactly works. So if you're interested in joining, simply like reach out to your account manager, let them know that I want to be a Progress All-Star. Alternatively, your account manager may nominate you directly to us, in which case, in both cases, we would set up a call with you to really provide a more in-depth overview where we'd go into these one by one and figure out what really makes sense for you and really discover where your interest lies and the capacity with which you'd want to work with us. And then we'd go from there and really formally welcome you to the program. And if you have any additional questions, again, please raise them to your account managers and ask about All-Stars, or you can also email us directly at progressallstars@progress.com. And with that, I will pass it back to the next speaker.
Thank you, Umaima. That was great. Really good to see that. I really wanted to highlight that in terms of all the other ways of engagement because you know you'll always get to a person behind however you want to engage with us. And that Customer All-Stars program is a really good progress initiative that we're now adopting in MarkLogic. And there'll be more programs to come on there where you can get involved in the product development and share your ideas. So thank you very much, Umaima. I'm going to hand it over now to Mitch Shepard from the PM team. He's going to give you a quick product update. And then we've got Rob Rudin, who's going to give us a demo of the Python client. So Mitch, over to you.
Perfect. Hey, thanks, Phil. Hey, let me know. Can you see my screen right now, the MarkLogic presentation?
Yeah, no worries. First time.
Fantastic. All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Mitch Shepard. I'm product manager for our developer experience team here at Progress MarkLogic. A lot of the stuff that we're focused on are client tools, integrations, things that we can do to help make developing with MarkLogic even easier. So I'm excited to present today. There are a couple of updates from recent releases that we have. And as Phil mentioned, we'll dive into our Python client a little bit more, talk about some of the cool features and functionality that you can do with that. So like I said, we'll jump into recent releases, jump into the Python client, and then our awesome engineer, Rob Rudin, will walk us through a demo showcasing some of that capabilities. So what have we been working on with the developer experience team recently? Quite frankly, we've had a lot of recent releases. Most of them you can see on our community portal. You'll see those posted as they're released. And so there are a lot of these. I won't go into too much detail with them. You can look them up, but we do have a recent release to our SPARQL connector, allowing users to now reprocess data and read and write document rows using the connector. Additionally, we have a new MuleSoft connector release, which is going to combine a lot of those operations and simplify that usage. A lot of those read capabilities can now be done with a singular operation. Along with aligning with MuleSoft's best practices for how that connector should operate and make it simpler for our developers to use. We also have updates to ML Gradle, to our Node and Java clients, and I'll point you over to the community portal to learn more about those releases. So awesome. Well, now jumping into the meat of our conversation, the Python client API. What is it? What are we trying to accomplish with it? How is it beneficial to our users? We really had three kind of core goals when we were working on this tool. We wanted to make it easier for customers that are working with Python and using data science, machine learning with their data. We wanted to make it easier for our Python developers that are working with MarkLogic to build their applications with MarkLogic. And we also want to provide like strong documentation on how to use this connector and provide examples of how it can be done today with real-time scenarios. So a lot of this it's not even a connector. The client API is it's building upon the existing Python request library, which already allowed you to do a lot with MarkLogic through HTTP requests and using the MarkLogic REST API. But we're adding a lot of capabilities to reduce the custom code or some of the more difficult tasks that you would have to do previously, a lot more straightforward today. So what does that functionality mean? Before we release the client API, batch operations would require complex multi-part requests. It would be difficult to query when you had complex headers. Sometimes those are difficult to remember. And then it's also there were some difficulties with some of MarkLogic's authentication strategies. And so feedback that we received from customers were, hey, they wanted it to be easier to utilize those authentication strategies, or they wanted it to be easier to query their data or to perform some of these multi-part requests. So now with the client API, that's exactly what is possible. It's easier to read and write batches of documents. You can submit search, Optic, SQL, GraphQL queries using the client API, and it also now supports those common MarkLogic authentication strategies. So exciting stuff there. We are always looking for suggestions on ways to improve both the Python client and any of our connectors or tools. And so I'd invite anybody, as Phil mentioned, cases that you think could benefit from an enhancement or improvement to any of our tools, let us know. And we're happy to chat and learn more about how we can better address your needs. So with that, this is more a high-level overview of the Python client in itself. I'm going to turn it over to our awesome engineer, Rob Rudin. He'll give you a more hands-on demo in, I believe, Jupyter Notebook. I could be wrong, Rob, let me know, but see some of the capabilities, how you can use the tool today. So pass it over to you, Rob.
Great, thanks, Mitch. And can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So hey, everybody, my name is Rob Rubin. I'm principal engineer here at Progress MarkLogic, and I'm going to walk through a brief demonstration of our Python client. I'm going to be doing this through a notebook in VS Code. And let me get right to it. In this first buffer, I'm going to create an instance of our client that is going to talk to the out-of-the-box documents database with MarkLogic. So I'll run that. I now have a client instance. Now, MarkLogic, we're a document-oriented database, but oftentimes, particularly for data analytics users, or any Python user using a tool like Pandas or Spark, we need to get data out of MarkLogic as rows. And in MarkLogic, we have a feature called TDE that allows us to project rows from documents. So what I'm going to do in this demo is insert a TDE into my database to project rows from any documents that are in the employee collection. We're going to load those documents next. And you can see I've just got 5 columns that I'm going to project. These are the columns that we'll see in rows in the subsequent queries that I'll be running. So let me insert that, and I'm using the MarkLogic Python client to do this. You can see this syntax right here. If client.documents.write, I just create a simple document object, give it the URI that I want, any sort of permissions and collections, and I can also specify what database I want it to go into, which in this case is my schemas database. That's where TDEs go so that MarkLogic can project rows. Now in the next cell, I'm going to download a file from one of our GitHub repositories that has 500 fairly simple JSON documents or JSON objects in it, and we're going to load those as documents into the employee collection, which means MarkLogic is going to immediately index those so that we can then query for rows. And again, I'm using the MarkLogic Python client to do that. This is the sort of use case where if you try to do batch reads or batch writes like this directly with our REST API, you get into some potentially complicated things dealing with multi-part HTTP requests and responses. This is where our client makes that much easier to do. You can see again, I'm just creating an array of document objects and then I pass it into the write method. I'll run that cell, and then I'm just going to hop over to my QConsole view and show that in my documents database, I now have those 500 JSON documents. I'll open one of them up, and you can just see fairly simple sample data for this demonstration. Again, there's about 25 different columns. We're just projecting 5 of those via a TDE. So next, let's start running queries using our Python client and some of the query languages that MarkLogic supports. First, we're going to use MarkLogic's Optic query language. If you're not familiar with Optic, this is a way to basically access all of the query capabilities within MarkLogic in what we think is a more intuitive and natural pipeline approach for building queries. Now I'm doing a very simple query here. I'm just saying from the view, which is created by that TDE template that we inserted a few cells ago. So from that view, just grab me the first 3 rows. And you can see very simple syntax for executing that with our Python client. We just call the rows.query method. So I'll run that cell. And then we get back 3 JSON objects, one for each row, includes the column. For each column, we have the column name and the type and the value. We can do the same thing with SQL. That's often what a Python pandas or Spark user may want to use for their queries. So in this case, I just pass in a fairly similar SQL query. I'm going to order the rows by last name, and then same thing. I get back 3 rows represented as JSON objects. MarkLogic supports GraphQL, so very similar to the previous 2 cells. I'll specify my GraphQL query. In this case, I'm going to get back all of the rows and just the last name and first name for each row. And it comes back in a GraphQL compliant data structure. So that shows just kind of scratching the surface of some of the ways that we can execute queries. But typically what a user is going to want to do is take those responses and put them into a library or some other toolkit that they're more familiar with. And a very popular one, of course, for Python users is pandas. And the easiest way to do that with our Python client is when I submit a query, I just ask for CSV data back. Because once I have CSV data, I can feed that easily into pandas and get back a pandas data frame. Once I have a pandas data frame, I can exploit the full power of the pandas library with that data from MarkLogic in it. So I'll run this cell, and you can see back, I get back all 500 rows, a truncated view. Again, if I'm a pandas expert, I'm happy, I'm good to go. I've got what I need here. And then just briefly to show that, once I've got that data frame, I can use a library to plot that within my notebook. And so I'm just going to do a simple view, a simple bar chart of the department column and the counts of all the rows. And again, this is straightforward. Once I've got it in a pandas data frame, just want to show, a simple end-to-end of how easily I can get data from MarkLogic and then start manipulating it and visualizing it with toolkits that are well known by the Python community. Now, some Python users may want to use Spark for doing data analytics or working with data in MarkLogic. So in this cell, I'm going to start a Spark session. I'm going to point it to the latest release of our MarkLogic Spark connector. So I've got that sitting in my home directory, and I'll run this cell to fire up a Spark session, which will take about 10 seconds or so for PySpark to start running. There we go. And now that I have a Spark session, I can do something fairly similar to what we did above, but instead of using the MarkLogic Python client, I'm using the MarkLogic Spark connector. Within Python, I run a very similar Optic query and then get back a Spark data frame, similar to a pandas data frame. I call show on it, and now you can see the data is there. And if I'm looking to use Spark, I'm good to go. I've got data from MarkLogic. There's a variety of other features that I can use with the MarkLogic Spark connector, but once I'm able to get those rows out of MarkLogic using pandas or Spark, I'm good to go. I can get on with whatever task I need to complete, whether it's data analytics or any sort of application development. And that's all. So hopefully that gives you a sense of how easy we think the MarkLogic Python client makes it to interact with MarkLogic, and also gives you a sense of what you can do with the MarkLogic Spark connector in Python as well. With that, stop sharing my screen and hand it off to the next presenter.
Great, Rob. Thank you very much. Thank you for demoing that for us. Really interesting to see that. Let's everyone turn on their cameras then, and then we can have our Q&A. So I'll stop sharing my screen so we can see everybody's lovely faces. So we've got a couple of questions for you guys, I think, in turn from that demo, which is interesting to see. So you mentioned the Optic API there, and what's the advantages of using that, not just say for the Spark connector, but also elsewhere? Because obviously we've got CTS search, but what's the real advantage of using Optic there?
Sure, that's a great question. So for me, I'd say I'm going to reach for Optic when the use case requires that I get rows out of MarkLogic. So I've used the Search API happily for over 15 years now. And the Search API, very flexible, very powerful, and it gets me documents back using hundreds of different query capabilities and query functions in MarkLogic. But oftentimes when I'm using that Search API, I might have to write some custom code in MarkLogic to fully make use of it. Optic gives me an API that I can use in any language. You can see that, well, that query that I had that I was running in Spark, I can write what we think is a fairly simple pipeline-based query with Optic. I can still use all of the CTS APIs if I need to, but often I can use what we think is a query language that will be more familiar to a variety of users that are accustomed to SQL or Pandas or Spark. Things like group by, aggregation, limit, filters, etc. And again, I can get back rows, which, as in the demonstration, if I'm using Pandas or Spark, I need to get back rows of data. I can't just get back documents. I get those rows back, it fits neatly into the toolkit that I'm using.
Great. And you also mentioned TDEs. Can you just give us a brief on that? Because I don't know whether everybody's aware of what that can provide.
Yeah, TDE stands for template-driven extraction, but really think of it as a way to project tables from your documents. So, we just talked about the CTS API and the Search API. Those are fantastic for querying documents. But a good example of when I might want to project a table is, let's say I have a person document with many addresses within it. I may have a use case where I want to do a query across all of those addresses. That can be a little bit awkward to do when I'm just using the document-centric query APIs in MarkLogic. But with a TDE, I can project essentially an addresses table. And now I can do things like show me all the addresses in Virginia, and I get back rows for all of the data. So there's more to it than that, but at the high level, that's the main problem that TDE solves. It allows us to effectively look like a relational database by projecting all these tables and rows.
Great. Yeah. So you've got all the advantages of that, as well as then having the multi-model database that underlie it as well. So
Right.
yeah.
And Phil, just one more note, it also allows users to begin querying MarkLogic with SPARQL, which they may already know. And then over time, they can start learning of all the power we provide with Optic and our CTS APIs. But initially, just start with SQL.
Yeah, no, that's great. We've got a couple of questions from the audience as well on this, which is, how well do these connections from Python scale with large volumes?
Sure. So right now, our Python client is wrapping the Python request library, and it's making single requests to MarkLogic. With our Python client alone, what we don't have is a capability similar to our data movement SDK with our Java and Node clients, which allows for true bulk operations, where there's a set of threads working in parallel to potentially grab 100 million documents or 100 million rows in a scalable manner. We would actually recommend looking at our Spark connector first for those sort of use cases. PySpark, other Spark distributions with our Spark connector, they provide that scalable way to perform bulk reads and bulk writes.
Right.
So that's what we would say, reach for that first, but we certainly want to hear feedback if that's a non-starter for customers, because it would be possible for us to look into more of a bulk approach with our Python client. But for now, we'd say, take a look at Spark and our Spark connector first.
Yeah, and again, if you've got that idea, or other ideas that you'd like to do with Python or any of the features in MarkLogic, then please feel free to submit that on our ideas portal. Another one was the GraphQL example was shown, was running on top of the TDE, or was it on top of the JSON documents directly?
Yeah, all of those queries we did required the TDE. So all of them were essentially on top of the TDE, on top of the table that was projected by it. So yeah, SQL, that particular Optic query, not every Optic query requires a TDE, but SQL, certain Optic queries in GraphQL, we have to set up a TDE or some other view first.
Yeah. And I think Jennifer has just joined, and I think we've got her available to us.
Yep, correct. Sorry for the, and it says Umaima on. We could just have all the technical issues happen in one morning is what this morning has been for me. But
No.
so again, yeah, thank you sorry for the issues, and I know Umaima did a great job and coming in late on a flight and all of this stuff. So I'm not sure what, I know she gave a good overview. Again, we're excited to be part of this team, this broader team, and working with you down the road. There's some great fun things that we can do as together to promote all of your thought leadership and the great things you're doing with MarkLogic. But yeah, definitely want to open up to questions and based on Umaima's presentation, if that is that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you very much for putting the presentation together. It's great to see so many vehicles and ways to engage with us. I know that there's a big push to become more involved with certain customers in the development of our technology. And I guess there's some programs in the customer advocacy group that would speak to those. What's your experience with customers who've done that, say, with other technologies in progress?
Like in terms of just promoting their work with a certain project based on the.
Yeah, it's more sort of like how they've helped develop certain solutions, or maybe taken an idea from start to production in the customer type thing.
Yep. Well, so because it could be blended in two ways. So there's the part where that you've worked with our technology, and so you want to sort of talk about your successes, but that you had a pain point, you worked with us, you implemented our technology. This is how you've iterated and evolved, and these are the successes that you have done along the way, and sort of talking about that and sharing with your peers how to overcome obstacles based on the technology that's available to you. Being part of our program too, the All-Stars program, is as we start to work together, we can collaborate on direction of where you may think of the product should go. You know, you get sort of a better, sort of more of a fast track sometimes to product teams, because we're talking to you about how you're succeeding with us, but then also learning from you how you would like to have us do more for you, right? So, and then we can work together that way, and then come out with some great solutions down the road too. And with that ecosystem of your peers within this group too, there's that other best practice idea generation. So there's multiple levels, as I know Umaima shared, from just working with us and talking, you know, to the industry about how you're succeeding. But absolutely, there's sort of microcosms within that can actually be like, when we're on a success story call, say you're having some great success, but you have a vision for something else coming down the road. On that call where we intake, you know, all the things great things you're doing to maybe do a use case snapshot. You have someone from the product team on there to say, okay, how about this? And you have that platform to say, you know, it would be really great if you guys could have this feature, or if we can talk about this and sort of co-develop down the road. That's an option. Now, is that a guarantee? Like, I can't speak for the product team. I get in trouble probably if I overly commit, but it's happened in practice many times. And for us, like, that's what it's all about, is mutual success. So we want to hear from you, and this gives you a good platform to, above like a regular ticket system, right, to actually really be sort of a thought leader and really helping us evolve our offerings. If that is what you're sort of looking for.
That's a great answer. And Mitch, I see you nodding your head there, and I know that because I've been on calls with Mitch with customers who are looking at future features and functions in MarkLogic, and Mitch is always keen to hear about you know, what can we connect our technology to, how can we make it easier on you, and basically help you innovate better with your data. So I think there's some great work that's going to be done between yourselves, the PM team, and then the customers that join these programs. So yeah, so thank you for sharing that. And yeah, lastly from Mitch, I think it's somebody that attended the semaphore session the other day that talked about innovation releases, and is that something that we're going to be doing with MarkLogic as well?
Yeah, no, we're always looking to innovate our technologies, whether that's, say, Python client, for an example, trying to innovate with LLMs, right? Like if you look at our Python client library right now, we provide an example of how you could use the client to integrate with LangChain, right? So we're always looking to integrate with new technologies and provide, you know, better ways to connect to a variety of data sources. So absolutely, if there's something specific that you have in mind, let us know. If there's something you don't, then we're also looking at a variety of stuff internally as well.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I think I've reached the end of the questions there, which is a first for us. But thank you very much, Rob, for your demo, Mitch for talking us through the new releases, and I'm sure there'll probably be more new releases next month. So check out the community forum to see the latest on those, because I know Mitch is often active on there posting about those, so that's really good to see. And Jennifer and Umaima, thank you very much for joining us, for all your troubles and tribulations getting on.
Again, my apologies, but
no
thank you for being part of this, for allowing us to be part of this.
But yes, so thank you for joining today. Thank you for all the attendees. Like I say, if you've got any questions, if you want to reach out to us, please do so. And we look forward to seeing you again in the future. If you want to check this out on demand, it will be available on YouTube or via our website shortly after this. Yeah, we look forward to seeing you again in March. So thank you, everyone. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.